What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be breaking down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the economic calendar, some very important supports to be watching for, and how the market's looking thus far. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Weeble link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 6 free stocks. If you deposit $500 into the account, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks plus 6 months of level 2 data. If you put in $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 70 free stocks plus 12 months of level 2 data. This could all be very helpful for trading, for investing, and things like that. So check out the offer before it ends in just about 12 days. But anyways, now let's break down what's happening to the market. We had some very, very interesting structures developing on Tesla, SPY, and all these different tickers. I mentioned that we had this head and shoulders like pattern developing on SPY. I talked about this in my penultimate video, my second to last video. You guys can see it, and this has been playing out so far. But the question is, will we get a close, an official close below our orange trend line? We haven't done that yet. And if we do get that, then this thing is going to start looking a lot more bearish. Now, we look bearish so far. It looks like we're going to do that. But just to be safe, I want to wait one more day to see if we officially start to really break down, if we really lose this trend line, because on the daily time frame we still actually close just at it. So we'll be watching to see if we get that break. As of right now, it looks more bearish. There's a good chance that SPY is going to be turning down now, but we want to be watching to see if we break key levels just to be as safe as possible. Just as reference, I just want to mention that on the 4-hour time frame, SPY closed just above, barely above the 4-hour 50 EMA, but we're starting to break below it in the after hours. So we'll be watching to see if we continue to reject off of this going into tomorrow after all the data comes out, and how the market continues to perform, because it's always very important to be open-minded. So what data is coming out for tomorrow? As a reminder, an hour before the market opens, we have initial jobless claims coming out. We want this to be between 222 and 225,000. Regardless of what this looks like, this could still affect the markets if these are way too low. So you just want to be very careful, if anything. We want them to be as expected, between that range for the market to like it. Otherwise, there could still be more selling coming out. So watch for the range. Besides that, at 10 o'clock a.m., we have wholesale inventories, which could cause some movement, but nothing too crazy. Then at 11:30 a.m., there could be the bill auctions coming out that may cause somewhat of a move. It's likely not going to be that big, that crazy as well. And then finally, at 3 o'clock p.m., we have the consumer credit change for October coming out. This is going to be important because it's going to give us a better understanding of what credit is looking like, how much debt we're seeing, and how much this is continuing to change on a monthly basis. So that's going to be important for the data right now about how our economy is looking, how consumer spending is looking too. And besides that, guys, we'll be watching to see how this causes the volatility to increase. I don't think any of the data is that crazy. I think initial jobless claims is one of the most significant pieces of data, but that's pretty much it. Everything else is just very minor, and we'll just see how this affects the markets. Now, the fear and greed index is currently at greed. We saw this basically shift a bit. We were at extremes on market momentum. Other indicators were at extremes, such as the put and call option positioning. And generally, this is when the market's like topping. That's when you see it at these like low levels. So we'll see if the market's ready for even more downside. We'll be watching it very carefully. For earnings, I think we have GameStop announcing it like right now or like very soon. We had AI. Then we have like Dollar General and just a few others for the rest of the week. But nothing too crazy for earnings, just a couple of them out there. Now let's break down what's happening with the charts. So, how is SPY looking? The simple answer is bearish. We look bearish. We have a bearish engulfing candle. We're even dropping in the after hours. We finally got this rejection, and it took a very long time, guys. It took a very long time to look this way. We had so much shops, so many moments where we kind of like popped and dropped and popped and dropped and then popped, popped, dropped, popped, dropped. It's just crazy. But finally, SPY is starting to turn, and we're about to get a bearish cross in the PPO. It's beginning to look a bit more bearish, but I want to see confirmation and a follow through with the move to the downside for us to finally get that move. We're still waiting for it to play out, but right now, like I said before, we have this head and shoulders like structure, and it looks like it's gaining more merit. So, what do I see for SPY? Excuse me. What could happen is it all depends on initial jobless claims. If you want to be bullish, just hypothetically, I know this is unlikely. The bullish case would be we somehow try to break back above the trend line. We make our way back up to 456, rebound, and we just try to continue to hold. If we manage to close back above our 455 area, there's a good chance the SPY could try to bounce, but that's looking unlikely. The bearish case is going to be maybe this thing gets a backtest after the data comes out at 455 or something, and it just rejects and it continues to maintain its weakness and starts losing 454. If we lose that and close below that, we're going to turn a lot more bearish, and this thing's going to be selling off to 452 pretty fast, very, very quickly. And if we lose 452, our next level is 450. It could just be a flush to the downside very, very quickly as we're starting to see liquidity being grabbed. So that's like the more bearish case. If we lose 450, I just want to call out that the daily 50 EMA is at 442. I think that 450 will be support. If we lose that, you're going to be watching 448-ish around there. If that fails us, there's a very good chance it's just going to fill this gap and make its way down towards 442 or so, or come very close to filling the gap before it tries to see a bounce or something like that. So there is a chance of downside. We have to see if we break support first. So don't assume we're just going to go straight down to fill the gap. Let's see how it reacts to 452 and then eventually 450. Let's see how it closes as well. I want to see a follow through to turn more bearish, but right now the bears have the edge. All right, so this red trend line is looking more probable. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but I'm just saying like a breakdown looks more probable so far. We will see how the data affects it, and let's see a follow through first before we turn way more bearish. We look pretty bearish so far, but I want to see more confirmation, and so far we're getting it. So, we're looking like we favor the bears. To be even more bearish, let's see a follow through tomorrow just to be safe. On the QQQ, it is looking bearish, but technically, and this is what I was talking about earlier, we haven't broken the key supports just yet. We're getting closer, but we're not there yet. So on the QQQ, it's very simple. Go to the daily time frame and look at the 20 EMA. I think this is the support that's holding it up. If the QQQ loses 383.5 or we close below it, this thing is going to get a rug pull, and then we're finally going to be filling this gap most likely down to 378. If we lose this green EMA right here, we haven't done it yet. So here are the possibilities basically. Basically, we could sell off towards this 383.5 area. If we bounce again, if the buyers defend just like how they did here, just like here, just like here, it could try to make its way back up towards like 385 plus 388 and then break down later on. But if we lose 383.5 tomorrow or by Friday and we close below it, I expect a big rug pull. And I think that there's going to be a lot of selling that comes and good money could be made on the way down. All right, so I just wanted to call that out. There is a risk of downside, guys. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure you're very careful. The odds do favor the QQQ testing 383.5, and we'll see if this breaks or not. My gut is telling me it might actually break, but just to be safe, wait for confirmation. Be very patient just to be safe. What about for Tesla? How is Tesla looking? In my opinion, not so great for the bulls. And the reason I say that is because just look at this chart, guys. I know I drew out the levels. It's kind of messy. I'm so sorry about that, but I just want to give you guys as much information as possible. It looks bearish because we have a left shoulder right here. You could technically argue that the left shoulder is like here. It could be either here or here, depending on how you draw this. And then we have like a right shoulder up here. We have the head up here. A nice head and shoulders on Tesla. Let me bring up the hourly time frame just to show you guys more reference, and it looks like it's about to start breaking down. So as far as Tesla goes, we're going to be watching to see if this thing can try to continue selling off. I was talking about this thing falling in my earlier video, and that's what ended up playing out. And now we're going to be watching this green trend line of support. So this green line, you guys see this big green line? This is the support that's been holding Tesla up for so much time. It touches this, it bounces, touches it touched it, it bounced, touched it here, it bounced, touched it here, it bounced, and we're continuing to hold it. You can't turn really bearish on Tesla until we break this, so we'll just have to wait and see if we get a break. So what do I think is going to happen? It depends on the news and initial jobless claims. Tesla could make an attempt to grab more liquidity, but we'll have to see. I think it might test this trend line. Do we bounce off the trend line and hold up? If we manage to bounce and hold up, Tesla could maintain these levels and not turn bearish, right? That's the more bullish case. The bearish case is going to be Tesla basically does the same thing. We kind of like pop, then we end up testing the trend line. But instead of holding it, let's just say there's bad news and Tesla just breaks below this and we make our way down towards 230. If that's the case, we have to hold 230 because if we lose it, we're going to turn even more bearish. So make sure you watch these levels. This is going to be our key support. I think it might drop a bit more, and we'll see if it holds support or not. That's going to be key. Now, don't forget, we have a head and shoulders like pattern developing on Tesla. So the odds favor it's going to test the green trend line and possibly break below it. But don't turn super bearish. Don't be a big bear. Not financial advice, by the way. But don't go crazy until we lose this like green trend line. If we lose the green trend line right here, I will turn more bearish. We haven't done it yet, so just be patient, be very calm, and we will see how it goes. Nvidia is looking kind of weak. Nvidia made an attempt to rebound. In my video from the morning, I said if Nvidia could break and hold 475, I think there's going to be more upside potential. If we end up failing, we come back below 468, I would turn a lot more bearish. And what happened? We tried to get back up to 475 and we failed, got a big rejection, and Nvidia came right back down. The share price is continuing to sink. Look for a back test right over here around this 455 area, then a rejection. I think that we're going to be retesting 450. I don't know if we're going to hold it. I mean, if we lose 450, this thing is going to be coming down all the way down to 444. Then we have 440 and even lower levels. I think the odds favor more downside. It's looking very weak, but we'll have to see if 450 could hold. There's a good chance it might break below that as the chart is looking quite bearish. So watch 450 as key support. If we lose that, expect even more selling. Make sure you're prepared for that just to be safe. As far as Aapl goes, Aapl right now is looking a little weak. It's starting to downtrend a bit, but it's just barely holding 192. If we lose 192, that's going to be our key support. We're going to be back testing this trend line. This is where our channel happened to be. So this, let me change the color and make this easier to see. So it's going to be our orange trend line up here. We're going to backtest that trend line if we continue to break to the downside. So I'm thinking that Aapl might lose 192. We're going to be watching if it holds this. If it loses that, it's going to come all the way down to like 190.75 or so. And I think more selling is going to be coming. If you want to be bullish, you want to see it hold above 193, break above this shop area it was in yesterday. My gut's telling me there's going to be some downside, so watch it come down towards 191 and watch this orange trend line to be retested. I think there's going to be some downside, guys, so just to be safe, make sure you watch these levels. Anyways, that's it for Aapl, Nvidia, and the main others. Now let me just quickly go over a couple more tickers. So after this sell-off, I just want to mention that we're going to start off with SoFi. SoFi to me is looking bearish now. If you look at the daily time frame, I was talking about 8.5 yesterday. We came very close and got this rejection. So I was talking about it coming up and down. That's close to what happened, but it ended up selling off even more than expected. So with that being said, we're going to be watching it come back down to 7.5 to 200 EMA. Look for a rebound. It could get back to this like imbalance around 8.1, then reject and come down to 7.5. For the IWM or the Russell 2000, it looks a little bearish. I mean, if you look at the current trend, we broke below our 20 EMA. It could backtest 184.61 and then come back down, but I think it's going to be making its way down to 181.67. It looks a bit more bearish to me for now. On, let's see, Microsoft, we're looking a bit more bearish. I was talking about this thing trying to balance, retest 375 and then rejecting. We came just short of it. Actually, we did do it. I was right about that. It happened during the pre-market actually, but we didn't do it during the open hours. So during the pre-market, it reached my target of 375 and rejected as expected. That's what I called out yesterday. And it came up, it came back down and ended up breaking down even lower than expected. I was talking about like coming down to 368. We actually are below that in the after hours. So I think that it's going to come down to 365 soon, and we have 358 as a key target. Looking kind of bearish, and we had this bearish divergence that's starting to play out. So on this one, it's finally working, and I think that we're going to see this thing descend even more. On AMD, this is looking a bit more bearish. It tried to break out and it got rejected off 122. Watch it come down to 114. That's going to be our next target, the 200 EMA. Could rebound towards 119, then reject and come back down to 114. Looks a bit more bearish for the time being. Now the VIX is starting to break, but here's the thing. We haven't closed above the 20 EMA yet on the 4-hour time frame. If we get a close above that, that's going to be a sign that the VIX is ready to start pushing. No confirmation yet, but it's getting closer. It's starting to make some progress. We also have failed to get above the 13.76 area on the daily 200 EMA. So let's start off with the 4-hour time frame. Let's see if we can try to get above 13.12. If it closes above this is going to be a big win for the VIX, and this could be because of the market selling off. The SQQQ is showing some life. We got above our EMAs, so this is actually looking stronger than the VIX. But on the daily time frame, let's see if it could break resistance at 16.75 at the 20 EMA. If it achieves this, it's going to start breaking out to fill this gap, and that's going to be correlated with the QQQ selling off. So let's see if we break 16.75. If we do so, there's going to be more downside for the QQQ and the NASDAQ. On the daily time frame at the 200 EMA, you're going to be watching this 104.24 area. If we break this, you're going to be watching this imbalance around 105.65. If we break this, there's going to be more upside. We haven't broken out just yet, so we'll just have to be very patient anyways. On Coinbase, I just want to mention that Coinbase, it came down just a bit. We're going to be watching the support right over here. Make sure you watch this gap fill. I was talking about this gap to get filled. If we lose this support at our 5 EMA at 134, I anticipate it's going to be selling off even more. And I think that we're going to see this thing drop towards right over here, this 126 area. I think Coinbase has some downside. It pumped like crazy with no stop. So I think that we're finally going to get a sell off, and I think 126 is on the table. I would say that Google is finally looking a little weaker. I was talking about this gap to get filled and possibly a rejection. We did come up to fill this gap yesterday, and today we retested that high. But now it's looking weak on the daily. Might come down towards 130. If we lose 130, we'll turn more bearish. So watch support right there. I think there's some downside coming. On Amazon is once again looking a bit more bearish. Watch the 20 EMA around this 143.88 area. If we lose this, you're going to be looking for more downside all the way back down towards 142. If that fails us, there's 139 that's coming next. But overall, it looks a bit more bearish. We'll be watching to see if this ends up breaking. Amazon also happens to have a head and shoulders like structure on the daily time frame, right? We have this left shoulder here, the head and the right shoulder forming. So it looks a little bearish. I can see it coming down towards 140 very soon. Looking a little weak over the next couple of days, and I anticipate some more downside. On Meta, I was talking about 315 to be tested. We came close. We actually hit 317. Meta looks like it's going to retest 313 to potentially start dropping towards these lower levels. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, I would say that we're approaching this support at 313, so I think it's going to be back testing that. Then we have 310 below that. So Meta's looking a little weak, been on a nice downtrend over the last week and a half, and I anticipate even more downside to come. So make sure you watch these key supports very carefully. If 310 fails on Meta, there's a risk of it coming down to 300. So make sure you watch your levels and remain as calm, cool, and collected as possible. Anyways, that's it for this one, guys. I hope you guys found this video helpful. As far as SPY goes, it's looking kind of weak right now. We will see how initial jobless claims and these other pieces of data affect it. Technicals are starting to look a bit more bearish, but watch and see if we break some key levels for confirmation. So I'm going to be waiting to see if we get a follow-through move to the downside on SPY and the QQQ. If we break key supports and get a close below them, I'm going to turn even more bearish. So I am favoring the bears a bit more, but just to be safe, let's see a follow through. Let's see if the market truly breaks support, and let's wait and see if we close below our key support levels to turn even more bearish. All right, guys. With that being said, please have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you and peace out.